Okay, the August 11th, 2025 meeting of the City of Cannon Falls Planning Commission will come to order. Roll call.
Johnson.
Here.
No. Fox.
Here.
Nova.
Here.
Douglas.
Here.
Nats.
Here.
Okay, the agenda is before us. Additions to the agenda or a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
From Chris, is there a second?
Second.
From Isaac. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So moved. I'm trying to do this in order tonight, so.
You're doing great.
Approval of minutes from the July 21st meeting.
Motion to approve.
Chris moves, second.
Second.
Brian seconds. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So moved. Is there any public input? Okay, no public input. Public hearings. Preliminary plat for Ormond Addition. And Lizzie said you were going to take that, John?
Yep. So Mr. Gorman has applied for a preliminary plat to plat lots in what are currently the St. Clair's Terre Haute addition, and which is actually not far from here, right across the street, or right across the railroad tracks. This was a part of a plan and an application very similar to this back in 2018. At that time, the presentation and application was made to plat out those lots, and with certain conditions of a couple conditional use permits and a variance, allowing them to have a variance for the block length, have conditional use that the lots could come off of, not have to be adjacent to a city street because they would be served by a private road. And Mr. Gorman would put in the utilities that would then become part of the city's infrastructure for utilities, and those would be the mains that would serve the properties at that time. So the preliminary plat was approved and granted. All those conditions and variances were granted. In addition, there was a vacation request for the alleyways adjacent to those lots, so that they could develop them with the proper setbacks and with those private roads, and those were all approved. Since that time, the preliminary plat that was approved did not get applied for a final plat, so a final plat was not approved. And by our code, if you do not complete from the preliminary plat to the final plat in a year's time, then that preliminary plat goes away. Additionally, the variances and CUPs or the variance in the CUPs, I would say are called into question whether or not they still apply to the land, but that's not necessarily for our determination tonight. The vacation of the alleyways, however, that was implemented and actually recorded. So as far as the county recorder's office and our legal descriptions stand, there are no public alleyways in that area. So that brings us to where we kind of are with the application today, that Mr. Gorman would like to put the alleyways back in. The current standards for our alleyways, this is one of the older plats in town, so the current standards for the alleys are 16 feet of paved surface with 16 additional feet of right-of-way, so 8 feet on either side, so a 32-foot right-of-way with 16 feet of pavement. So that then creates some different unique circumstances regarding this project and where the plan would lay. So try to kind of explain how this would work with some of the maps that you have. So I apologize for all of the stuff that's in there. So I wanted to kind of include some of the information from the past decision, but I did try to draft some maps like these to show why the requests that would follow the preliminary plat, if approved, would need to be completed before the final plat. So as originally, when we originally met, and Mr. Norman and I met a number of times around this project, the thought with the alleys being, we were under the impression that alleys being 16 feet would allow for the most part, the two kind of main areas for development to meet all of the setbacks within the RB district where these lots are located for the potential building of 2 twin homes. However, then when we were revising things and actually applying and looking at the code with the additional 8 feet on either side of the paved alley, which would be beneficial because that would help to maintain the right-of-way access for the utilities that have been installed in the area, that would create a need for a variance for this. So essentially, the core of tonight's decision is really to have the public hearing and the decision or evaluation of the plat, with the acknowledgement that there's a list of conditions that you would likely approve as recommendations if this project were then to move to a final plat situation where the lots could be developed and then actually homes be built on that site. So that would include the variances for not just the setback for one of the or two of the parcels to be closer in the front, so that they could meet the setbacks, but the lot depth, because the lot depth of an RB is 142 feet. So with those changes, the lot depth minimum is not met on either of the two main parcels that we're looking at. So So as you see, and it was reviewed by our engineers, when going over this and kind of having some things that were already approved, already done, some things that were not done, but were approved, we do feel that it would be recommended to at least approve to the preliminary plat, so long as those, we did address the conditions that would need to be made. And I'll kind of touch on some of those. So number one, for the engineers' circumstances, they just want to make sure that anything that MnDOT would have would be acknowledged. So in my meeting with Mr. Gorman, he has applied for the proper permits with MnDOT for, I think there was a culvert that was moved for stormwater drainage. So, but I don't, at the time of the application and drafting this, we didn't have any answers or feedback. So we just want to make sure if there's feedback or there's some things that MnDOT wants to have done because it is adjacent to the within their right of way, that those be incorporated. So that, and then everything is met to the standards, and that we do ultimately get the documents that are required for the plats to the final forms. So the certificate of survey, we do have one on record that is from the 2018 timeframe. We do have a grading and drainage erosion control plan, which was from the previous one. But we would want to make sure that that's updated if there's any changes or things necessary for that. And then the utility plan, just making sure that we do have one. We do have where actually some of the as-builts are, or where the as-builts are, with notes on that's incorporated. But just making sure that those things, as they get to the final plat stage, are updated. So, it's typically required to have them incorporated, but in terms of wanting to make sure, hey, is this project even going to get past this stage? That was one of the reasons we had the work session conversation about it. The investments and those costs, we want to make sure it could be done. And even if this were to go to a final plat, it could be somebody else that could ultimately develop it as well. So if those lots are noted that, hey, this is how they can be buildable, you can build on them, but these are the contingencies and things that they have to fall through that might be make them more viable for a person to develop. So just a couple of the other things are relatively small, or the name for the roadways, just acknowledging that when we had Hardwood Estates, there was a little bit of complication with some of the naming conventions of roadways. That would need to be acknowledged because they're not necessarily fronting off of 5th Street or fronting off of even 6th Street, which is marked on a map as the part of the alley, but it's technically not where the 6th Street is. 6th Street is actually farther west. So just figuring that out at the end would, I think, be necessary. And then the variances that were described, so that they acknowledging that while they don't meet the code, the spirit of needing housing and having something built here and having it primarily meeting a lot of the other circumstances other than those distances would be achievable. So that's all I have for my presentation piece. If I can take any questions, or if not, I want to open the hearing first, take the public comments, because I do know we have individuals that will speak to this as the public hearing.
I will open the public hearing for the preliminary plat for the Gorman addition at 642. Would anyone like to speak to this?
Yep.
Happens to be a neighbor of the addition.
I live on the south end of this. And actually, this is kind of a circle. In 2018, when this was all coming forward, that started our city council journey. My husband and I started attending meetings, and of course, no one listened to us. So at the time, it got all approved anyway.
And let me pause. Can you give your name and address for the record, please?
Yes, I
Thank
should
you.
know that. Becky Youngmark, 810 5th Street North, Kansas. And so here we are again. We were concerned about crowding in 2018, and we're concerned about that again. And so I don't know if any of you have seen that area, but the thought of 5 families moving into 3 buildings there, and I am on the park board. Where's the green space going to be? Is there going to be any yard left? Because it is tight there, and it is not a city standard lot. It's been, the variance was approved in 2018. So they're beautiful lots, but to put 5 families into that area, I think is too small. And I think it would be a disservice to the families that live there, including us. So thank you very much.
Are there others who would like to comment on the preliminary plat? I can't see behind the pole too well. Anyone else? Hearing none, then I will close the public hearing at 6:44. Now we move to item 7, discussion. Item A, preliminary plat for Gorman additions. Members of the commission.
Do we have a time frame as to, I guess in 2018 or 2017, it didn't get finished. It took a year, nothing happened. So what is the time frame for getting things started on this one, getting it completed? What are the chances that it won't be completed or even started again after a year? Do we have any guarantees on that?
Can I piggyback on that? So if approved, does this last for a year as well? Did I miss that or misunderstand that?
No, that's correct. The
Okay.
preliminary plat would need to be taken to the final plat stage. That it wasn't. There weren't any other requests for that for an extension.
If I may, Ms. Johnson, I have a couple questions, no answers. You were talking about 2 units, 2 lots. Are you talking about the one twin home lot? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
because the other one does conform. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yep.
I thought that's
Yep,
what
no,
you were doing.
there's only one that needs the front setback variance.
Yep.
Just to be clear,
Yeah.
if I misspoke. So the one on the south end was the one that needed the front setback variance. The one on to the north does not need any setback variances. It only needs the lot depth variance.
Right. And it wouldn't except for that 8 feet of right of way
Yes,
that
and
you want.
it was right on
Right,
the edge. It
yep.
would have
Yep.
complied, yep,
By
it would have
6
met all
inches.
the complying, but when we reassessed and agreed that the 8-foot additional right-of-way for the alley needed to be there, then that pushes that.
Now, to try to answer your question, Brian, so, I've certainly thought about putting a twin home in there, but it's awfully expensive and things aren't selling. And the bottom line is, I'm gonna plat it, period. Okay? That's my plan. So it would be platted, it would be completed well within the year, and it may sit there. I'm not guaranteeing you that I'm gonna build anything. I'm only doing it so that my children won't have to do it, because I may not live long enough, I don't know. So it's just one step at a time. You may shoot it down and it may just sit there, I don't know.
Can I ask?
Yes,
And maybe this is a John question. If this is platted with all these variances, does that continue then with the land, or will that expire to your variances?
Note that, so the variances, if you go to the final plat and they're approved, then the variances stay with the property.
Okay.
Yes.
when it's,
When you go to the final plat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, only when it goes to the, for sure when it goes to the final plat. So my question is back in these variances are different slightly from, you know, or the conditional use and the variances are different than what was approved back in 2018. So that's why I'm not saying like, I don't want to ask the questions or even apply the 2018 decisions and what was approved at that point, because they're not really relevant to the plan that we have today. Because we're going back to public right of way, because that was part. We were moving to private streets, so that was one change to the allowed rule, which, you know, incorporated the two. I believe that was the two conditional uses. So one, private streets, so they would not be fronting off of a public street. So that was one conditional use. The other was to even allow for a private street, period. And then because then they wouldn't have the proper block length, was the variance piece, which I guess I haven't looked into, but it wasn't necessarily worried. I wasn't worried about the length of the block so much for where this is developed. So, but at the time, you know, the infrastructure was put in. So like that's an investment that's already been made that makes these lots more buildable if they can then meet or get approvals for this in terms of its land use. So kind of, like, we're talking about tract in the data center, we're talking about the land use approvals, we're talking about the development agreement that encompasses the infrastructure. Some of those things are coincide. So in this instance, there's infrastructure in the ground. It's, you know, those things would be ready to be made connections. The alleys would have to be repaved, you know, and added, but that's, you know, that is in terms of infrastructure cost, like the lots are fairly ready to be developed.
So, just curious, couple things I guess I have. What's the access off of Fifth Street then? Is there no access, or is that
No,
just?
there is, and that was actually what he had I referenced in the MnDOT piece, was he moved the culvert, so
Right.
then that would align where the alleys would be replatted to go.
Okay,
I might
so-
interrupt you, Chris, for just a minute, because I don't want to forget this MnDOT thing. I applied back in early May, something like that, to MnDOT, and got no response, if you can believe that. And then when I have a friend that works for the design department in MnDOT, and I called him up, so he gave me a name and a number, and I called this guy, and I got a quick response, and he said, I'll get on it. And there was a couple transmissions back and forth, and I would get a permit in about a week. That was at the end of May. I still don't have it. Well, I moved the culvert, okay? And I mean, it's moved. It moved like 25 feet north. And there, I just drove by there. They've got it dug out, and they're going to pave an entrance to it. So, and I've tried repeatedly to get a hold of this guy. I get no response, no email response. But I have an email thread, my wife does, because I don't do that kind of stuff. And
So is it gonna be a shared entrance to the Young Marks residence then? Is that how that's gonna work?
yes, there's an easement. I built that house for my son. My son and I built that house.
Yeah.
And there is a 20-foot easement to go to Young Marks off that entrance. It also wraps around and comes in behind Dakota Street. So there's two entrances and exits.
And then, do I understand this correctly? There's gonna be some sort of HOA agreement where that private alley is taken care of?
No, it's not a private alley.
Oh,
So
a
that was
public
the past,
street.
that was part of the past.
Okay.
So I want to be clear on that. Like,
Yeah.
there's things of the past ones that are not applying to where we are today.
And in 2018, I had a person that was interested in purchasing the whole thing, and this was part of the deal. And I put the infrastructure in, and I've got it to 5 lots, and that fizzled. So here I sit.
And the alley meets our.
The alley would meet the, yeah, it would need to,
So
it would
we
be
don't-
part of the contingents that meets the design requirements, but
Right,
the
so-
way it's platted, it could meet that.
So our public works would have any issue plowing that or taking care of that or?
They have for years and years.
Okay.
And another just detail. So if this makes it to the final plat and is approved, if somebody comes in and decides not to build a twin house, but just wants to build a regular house, does it have to be replatted then? Or-
No, they would just have to meet the setbacks as they apply, or, well, even that front setback variance, that would be, regardless of whatever home would be put there, that it would need to be in place to make it buildable. I mean, otherwise you would have a very narrow house. Yeah, I guess if these are constructed, I guess that number would be relative to the design of the twin homes that you shared with me, because that's what, I think is built on here. So that,
You lost me. somehow.
okay, so we're not approving, we're not asking for approval tonight for to make this front setback 17 feet. We're just saying that contingent upon it, it needs to be at least 17 feet in a future final plat approval. And that was based on the design of, that twin home design that you showed.
Yep.
The plans, building plans that you showed for that, because that was like 50, is that 53? 52 feet deep.
52,
So where that would start to where it would finish, then it could fit within a 17-foot setback in the front and a 20-foot setback in the back, trying to preserve the back lot as much as possible, because that's what's budding Young Marks. So if somebody came in and these are preliminary platted and they said, I don't want to do twin homes, I'm going to do regular homes, they could maybe amend the setback number if their home design was skinnier or narrower front and back. They could. You would be changing, going from, I think where we're at max of 52 feet from the front to the back of the constructed house to, if you go all the way to the 25, then you're down to 44 feet from the front to the back. So it's possible.
Can I interrupt you? Can I get a copy of that when we're done?
Yeah, you can-
I
I'll
love
give-
that. I love
yeah.
that color you got.
Yeah, no, I
But,
yeah, just give that.
and so that you understand, I do meet the setback requirements to Young Marks. And I've told them that if I'm going to do this, and I get along great with the Young Marks. I told them if I am going to do that, then I'm going to get a permit to put a fence up in the back, because there was this massive lilac bush. So they were hidden back there, and I told them that I'm going to come in and put some of this out, and they agreed that it needs to be thinned out. But I told them I'll put up a fence, and it'll be right on the property line, and then they don't have to be that close. But I do meet the setback there, I meet the setback on the side. I would have met the setback on the front till John stole 8 feet from me by 6 inches.
Yeah.
Other questions? We're not dealing with fence right now.
Okay.
Sorry, next.
Yes.
Other questions or comments?
Thank you.
I just want to know, I just want to make sure I understand. We're gonna, what you want to do, or what this wants to do is shift the road, the alleyway.
Replatting the alley.
Replatting the
yeah,
alleyway.
because it's gone.
And I am, based on what I see on here, and I don't know the layout exactly, other than there's a bank there from the Young Marks property. You know, they have their driveway, and what it looks like now is that that would have to shift over a bit, correct? No?
I do believe their existing driveway fits within that 20-foot roadway easement.
Okay.
Access easement.
Okay.
And that is in existence, and that's the.
Unless it's an overlap.
That can be the map, so the aerials aren't
Okay.
perfect.
Got
I've had examples of this where I turned 23 aerials on, 24 aerials, and everything moves
True.
east and west a little bit.
That makes sense.
So you can't base the aerials as
Okay.
as where they ultimately will be. That's going to be on the survey.
And just for my information, because this is going to be, this roadway in here is going to be an alleyway, does that have to be paved?
Yes.
Yes.
Right now, the city code has alleyways are paved.
Okay.
That is the design standard.
And it's not more than 100 feet, so.
Yeah, and then not 2 acres in size, so it's not going to meet the exemption.
So-
But these are public alleys anyways, and not driveways.
Where's the cost of that as a developer?
Okay.
Other questions, concerns, thoughts?
I'm just gonna ask Mr. Corman, so you get the preliminary plan done, it's just that's what you want, that's your whole thing, is just to get it going. And whatever happens after it's approved, if it goes to the final or whatever it might be, you don't really care if someone else bought the property from you, or it's gonna go to your kids, or whoever it's gonna go to. You're just gonna prepare this to be able to be developed. That's your main emphasis.
That is correct. I do have a blueprint to put up one twin home, which would be next to Young Marks first, and I do have
So that would be
a
like,
friend of my
that would
son's
be
that
lot
wants
two?
to build on it. But
Okay, so when you say it's close to Youngmark, that'd be the lot two?
Yeah,
Oh,
block
I'm up
2.
to one.
Lots
I'm up
1
to
and 2.
There we go.
Wrong color.
There we go. Lot one. There we go.
I have
Okay.
a plan. If it was all approved, I could pull the trigger and build it tomorrow. Well, after it's approved,
Right.
and the final plat's approved, correct, John?
Yes.
I could probably do it before the final plat is approved. I guess. No? Can't? Okay.
Okay.
No, you would, yeah, because you need the final plat approval and the variances to meet our zoning permits.
Okay.
So we would not be able to approve the zoning side of that building permit, which the county makes us do our part first on the zoning piece before they approve the building. So, yeah, you might meet all the building permit stuff, clean sale, they can hammer that out really fast. However, we have to have the zoning authorizations, and that's why we're going through this process. So first it's preliminary plat, then it would be final plat, and you would need the conditions of that to be met to meet the final plat, so that it could then get the approval to build that home.
Okay. So it ain't happening tonight.
We're just recommending, if we're making a recommendation one way, there's.
So nothing's happening tonight.
As the process goes, the
Yep.
preliminary plat process starts with the public hearing, the recommendation from the planning commission, then that recommendation, if they voted up or down, it still then goes to the council as their recommendation. So it will be going to the next council meeting on a resolution.
Is that?
No, it
That's
would be the 19th.
Yeah, thank you.
And then, so it goes council is still a preliminary plat. And if it's approved by the council with conditions, then we would wait for those
Yes.
conditions to be met
Yes.
and presented in
yeah,
the final
there-
plat. Would that also need a public hearing or is that just?
No, final plats don't necessarily need the public hearing, but the variances would. Yes.
So now we're all suitably clear on our,
Yeah, so yes, procedurally too, there's a lot more steps than tonight. You saying yes tonight doesn't necessarily mean it's gonna happen. You saying no tonight doesn't necessarily mean it's not gonna happen. You are recommending a board to make a recommendation to the council.
based on found page to have what we're supposed to say.
Yes. I tried to script it.
I love the one where it has the, all the 9, I mean, unless we want to further discuss or we're ready to move on.
I guess I just want to point, I guess I'm okay with this. I don't have a huge problem. I think it's a good thing. You can get more houses in there. I get it doesn't meet the front setback, but yeah, I'm okay with this, just like I was with Dollar General. There are a ton of variances there. This is only has the one there for the setback, and it just makes sense to me. If you get more houses here, and you know, it's an odd lot, odd piece of property as it is, and that's what variances are for. And I think if your twin home design was 8 feet shorter and you met the setback, I have a feeling the Young Marks would feel the same way. If you get what I'm saying, there'd still be a house there even though it's 8 feet shorter. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but
I'm gonna.
Go ahead.
I want to just interject. Like,
Go for it.
So I appreciate Mr. Gorman on this process because he's done a lot of diligence to meet with me, to talk about the project. We've gone over a lot of different things in advance of even the application being, formally submitted. It wasn't the 8-foot right-of-way piece has been a change in our design standards. So when he originally brought this forward, we're looking at everything as, 16 feet for an alley. That's what they all are. Everywhere you look all around, 16-foot alleys are all over the place. It was after that, so that piece is kind of a late, I guess, awareness on our part. So I do want to own part of it. It isn't, his design could have been different if that was all part of the original kind of thought process and plan. He could have had a design that was 8 feet short. So I don't want to make it seem like he's trying to force something in here, but based on what we discussed, we wanted to make sure we're meeting the timeline for the public hearing getting set and having something to discuss. So just needing to acknowledge that, hey, there may be an additional variance that somebody could come in with a design plan and that front setback variance may not be needed. But as it stands with the information we had, we wanted to acknowledge it, incorporate it, and not feel like we're presenting something that isn't.
No,
would be
that's fair.
Worse, I guess.
Yeah, no, I guess at the end of the day, there's more houses, probably more affordable houses if they're twin homes. It makes sense to me, and yeah, that's
I guess I would have to agree with you. It's like I've driven around that property, looked at it, and if we're trying to make things more aesthetically pleasing for people to come into Cannon Falls, look at it, I think where it is now, to me, when I drive by, I'm like, it looks dumpy. At least if we put houses in there or something like that, I think it'll make it look a little bit more attractive, which is good for people, especially coming in from that direction. That's, oh yeah, look at that, they're doing something positive. So, yeah, I think it's a positive for the city compared to what's there now.
I know it's outside of what we're approving tonight, but I think it'd go a long way if you built that fence when everything's done. But
We get a permit for that too. And first of all, I'd like to just say thank you to John and Dave for the incredible amount of work and effort that's gone into trying to figure this all out, including all of the old documents, what still applied, what didn't, and your willingness to work together and bring this to us. If we're ready, what we would need is a motion to recommend approval, we recommend to the city council approval of preliminary plat so long as the following 9 conditions are met in the application for final plat within a period of 1 year to date, if approval of this resolution. Would someone like to make that motion?
So moved.
Chris moves, second.
I'll second it.
Brian seconds. Further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? So moved. Thank you. Just so government, leave all the buildings good. Thank you. We are down to discussion item B, approve Sunrise Court retaining wall. And if you go way, way back in your packet, you can find that. Cindy, you're going to speak to this tonight.
All right, so this item is for the approval of a building permit and excavation permit at 211 Sunrise Court. So that is the manufactured home in the southern portion of town. So I had an applicant come in, he wants to put up a 4-foot retaining wall, which is where the building permit comes in. So if you're at that 4 feet limit, you have to do a building permit for a retaining wall. He's also doing a lot of excavation in order to put this in, so that's where the excavation permit comes in. Unfortunately, his site is within the Bluff Overlay Protection District that the city has. So per that city code, we need approval by planning commission before we can approve the permits and send the building permit off to Goodhue County for its final building approval. So for the process, we did bring in the city engineer so that we could do some erosion control measures with the applicant. So with his construction, it's required that he has to seed or sod within 7 days after his construction is complete, and then if any slopes are greater than 4 to 1, he does have to do the erosion blanket instead of just sodding due to the slope of that bluff. It is right behind his property, so that's where this issue comes into play. So that was brought up with the city engineer. It already went through zoning approval through me. So the purpose of this memo is to get planning commission approval so that we can keep this approval process going. And then the applicant can get going with this construction.
Questions? Comments?
So is there anything there now? Is there, like, is there an old retaining wall or is there wood? or-
There's no retaining wall right now. He has a shed that's back there, but the retaining wall is past the shed where that bluff and the steepness comes in. So he's trying to hold back erosion that comes onto his property with that retaining wall.
Okay.
So this is actually addressing the current problem.
Correct, yes.
Other questions, comments?
Is there, where he's putting the retaining wall, is there a neighbor beside him or above him or however that must be above? Is that the case or?
Yeah, so there's, I believe up on the top of the bluff, there is neighbors, and then just beside him, within the porch, he has neighbors on right and left of him.
Okay.
Are they having the same problem?
I guess I haven't spoken with them.
Especially the ones above, if they're having.
Anyone else?
That's right. Well, the retaining wall stop it, so it'll be okay.
Other questions, comments?
Just, I don't know, I mean, as long as the city engineer puts some conditions on it, I trust his judgment, I'm happy with it, it makes sense to me.
We could talk for a long time, or we could just move to approve the excavation and building permits. We're comfortable with that. I'll open the ones.
Let's make the motion to approve.
Okay, Brian moves to approve the building and or excavation and building permit.
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconds? Isaac seconds. Further discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? So moved. Next planning commission meeting is September 8th. City council August 19th. If there's no further business or anything,
Provide one update about our upcoming September 8th. So our project with Tract is getting moving along. We do have a tentative agreement in place with the township related to the annexation of the property. So that will be going in a resolution to the city council on the 19th. So as part of that, we had a very long meeting with Tract last week as the data center code amendment has progressed. They understand the terms of that and are prepared to amend their initial application back in May to accommodate that process, as well as things that there are modifications from the original piece, so more, I'd say, concessionary asks from preliminary what we have. So they have a deadline with us to get that information to us so that we can have everything prepared and get to the planning commission. I do believe prior to that planning commission, we will likely again have another work session, joint work session with the council, just to make sure everybody's on the same page as these processes go through. And then Izzy, I think, has an application today that came in. So I just want to make sure you're aware. I would very, very much need attendance that night because there are 5 public hearings, individual public hearings that would be needed for the Tract application, and then there'll be additional public hearing for the applicant that came in today. So it's going to be a busy one. On the 8th. So
You want to have the work session before our meeting?
the work session before the meeting. It would be a shorter work session than our previous ones, but just to make sure that the council has their attention to it as well.
It's a 6:30 meeting, we have a 5:30.
We'll see as things come together.
is it possible to send the planning commission members that timeline chart?
Yes, yep.
I found that.
Yes.
It's too
Yep.
long to print, but
No,
Right, very
I can try to format it so it fits on a 8.5 by 11 a lot better. But yeah, I'll do that. You,
that way they- everybody's up to speed on what's expected of us.
so if you just share the email address if I don't have it.
And I should have done, is there anything further for us from? Anybody else have anything they would like to share? And a motion to adjourn? Just that you've already made, Jesse.
Move to adjourn?
Jesse moves, second.
Second.
Isaac seconds, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.